Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today, focusing in on a very painful experience, and that is when the narcissistic or psychopathic relationship goes out of control, when it really hits rock bottom, when it really bottoms out, when things get very very caustic, very violent. There's hate texts going on, mad texting, driving over to people's homes, looking through their garbage. This sort of perverse jealousy, pathological jealousy, envy, coupled with revenge, coupled with anxiety, coupled with vengeance, and then coupled with sexual arousal. All these sort of different emotions that can really contaminate a person, becomes very toxic and lethal in the chemical collage that is experienced with psychopathic and narcissistic mind control. So when we talk about mind control and what they're really doing, a lot of people, they don't understand what that really means, or they don't give credence to the seriousness of it. And when we talk about somebody having control over you, they are manipulating you. They are pushing your buttons. They are pushing they're pulling the trigger on you to get you to behave in a certain way, think in a certain way. Control is different than influence. When you're being influenced, you're a little bit more in the driver's seat. You're still in control. It's coming from a more positive space, I would say. Influence versus the experience of being, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll get it in just one moment. When someone is really trying to provoke or persuade you, more persuasive or bully tactics, but it's more seductive, perverse seduction that tends to create a lot of that out of control rage when there's the control, and the insulting combined with arousal is the dynamic that I want to look at in this video, and how it really causes a lot of that out of control rage. And I find this almost indelibly in all narcissistic and psychopathic relationships, with others who are in romantic or even familial or even work situations where they are involved with someone where there's a whole ton of different emotions stirred up in the pot. From love, jealousy, envy, respect, degradation, desire, discarding, insulting, judging versus supportive versus, a hero savior, scandal and lust and infatuation and loyalty and unloyalty. So it's this whole barrage of all these different emotions concocted into one. And that really is what is so confusing and overwhelming to the body and mind in general. And it's this complete dissociation with any sort of focus, identification of one's feelings that results in this control by another person. So just like when we talk about control for prisoners of war, where they're tortured, they use the Chinese water torture or the bamboo nail torture, where they're involved in such psychological pain and trauma and terror and physical pain that they basically dissociate from themselves. They get into such a heightened state of arousal or shock that they go into an extreme fight or flight, which is your adrenal system, and then your central nervous system is on hyper overdrive, where it's flooded with the adrenals, acetylcholine, and the stress chemicals, which are flooded into your body, and then at the same time you're coaxed into being sexually attracted to them, which is a pleasure center, which is your life force. It's your procreation, it's your creativity, it's your inspiration, it's your innovation, it's your, coupled then with your ability to survive. All your senses then are kind of wound up and then twisted. And so the person then cannot sort out their emotions. They cannot sort out, their their direction. They cannot sort out their identity. They don't have an identity that is really based in positivity and in reality anymore. It's like a break from them feeling grounded, rooted, and having direction. So it's very serious. It's very scary. It's very uncomfortable. And, this is not recommended to perpetuate. If you find yourself in the midst of this in a relationship where it's really causing you to go to the brink where you're really not yourself, you're engaging in very peculiar behaviors, which you find distressful, but you feel yet they're required of you to make it through the day. From feeling, severe paranoia that this person is plotting behind your back, or that they are actually doing these things, and then, insidiously leave receipts or Instagrams or emails or, passwords out, or phones, all these different things that they will plant in your environment, just strange, bizarre things that, is unexpected. Moving things around in your office, moving things around in your home, leaving, bizarre, scratches and things that might be emblematic of an initial or a face, or different things that they will do to just kind of disrupt your, your feeling of your sanity and peace. And they create this fear, this paranoia, this suspicious, and this whole, but couple it with, sexual arousal and then satisfaction of that, it becomes very lethal. The body is not meant to be operating in that space. The physical body is not meant to exist in a state of terror. It's like being dropped from an airplane and like falling, 300 miles per hour, towards the ground, and then trying to focus on other things. It's just your body is in a state of overwhelm. It's not healthy. It is only going to serve to, create a sort of pathology within yourself, and a real addiction is created when you're in this heightened arousal state, because the brain tends to seek out these high emotional occurrences again and again, and that's really the foundation of drug addiction, as we're saying in previous videos, where people who are addicted to cocaine, their brain is actually has this hyperarousal, and so it creates almost like a marker in the brain, so the brain craves to go back along that same neural pathway and re-fulfill it. Everything else seems to be deadened, and is then like driven to create that same neural pathway again and again. So it's very much an addictive experience, but yet it's not a pleasurable addiction. So if you're engaged in this sort of behavior where you're engaging in risky behavior that matches that of a psychopathic individual, or a narcissistic individual, where they have created that arousal state, and then created that sort of disrespect at the same time. So I've heard the psychopathic individuals say, we respectfully disrespect you. That's how they express, how they treat people. But it's very insidious. There's a lot involved with that. And so if you feel like you're so disrespected, and you're having that blunt to the ego, and yet you're having to bounce back and scratch people's cars, or light their house on fire, or like dump garbage all over their house, or do something really insidious that can get you in severe, criminal trouble, you need to realize that you got to put the brakes on it, because the psychopathic individual, the narcissistic individual, they don't have those emotional brakes. They, not like give me a brake, but I'm talking about like the brakes to a car, where they're not able to stop. They're powerless over their need for power and supply, and they will just keep going and do anything to get it. And it's nothing personal to do with you. They're just, on the hunt. They're on the prowl. This is what they do. This is how they live their life. This is how they live their world, and they leave only a wake of destruction. So it's not like the next person is going to have it any better, happier, the good stuff, the juice, the pleasure, like they were just learning from you and moving on. unfortunately, these people are unable to change. This is how they live their life. This is how they operate. They live, they get married with people, and they have relationships 2 and 3 and 4 deep. They, you know, engage in all sorts of sundry other criminal behaviors, you know, from infiltrating funds and businesses to lying and cheating in business endeavors. So it's really a heinous thing, and I really firmly believe that cheaters never win, you know, that honesty is the best policy, and integrity is really being accountable to yourself, responsible to yourself, and self-dependent. So, you know, if you've gotten a whirlwind of these type of relationships, come back to your own values, come back to your own focus. You know, what values do you really operate by? You know, what is your you? Define your you. You know what your true strengths are, and live by that time and time again. So, you know, if you're easygoing and, you know, you enjoy certain aspects of life and you live by these abstract values, live those and integrate those on a daily basis. And because oftentimes what I find, the people who are coming out of a narcissistic or psychopathic relationship, they have been living a lie oftentimes with this other person. In other words, they've been engaging in behaviors they didn't believe in. They were engaging in values that they didn't believe in. So they had this betrayal of themselves and their own real internal values. So they had like taken on the mask momentarily while they're, you know, with these people for a sense of belonging or relationship or companionship, whatever the motivation was at the time. But now they, you know, they're sensing that they need to grow beyond this person. So it is okay to grow up. It is okay to move on from, you know, toxic circles of people that no longer serve you, or that are not right for you, or that are keeping you inhibited, or living a life that you're not happy with, or a lifestyle that you're not happy with. So oftentimes that's where the change has to occur. And, you know, identifying with your values, and oftentimes they are very different than the values of this toxic person, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to have your own values. It's okay to have your own life and to be different and live, you know, directed by those. But as long as they're yours and you focus on a future where you're living by those values, and they're good values that serve you and serve others, then you're going to be living more in alignment with your true purpose, and life is going to rise there to meet you there and support you in more happiness, bliss, fulfillment, all those things that you're really seeking, but that can't be met from a narcissist or a closed-hearted person. Also a psychopath. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.